Motivational Army, your key to daily success.
I was scuba diving in Australia at the Great Barrier Reef, and we were in a scuba diving advanced course. And I was really excited because you do a lot of different things in this advanced course than you normally do. And so we were going to be going on a night dive. And, you know, the ocean is like Las Vegas, is that there is activity day and night, and it's so vastly different during the day than it is at night. So I was super excited about this night dive, and I was walking down to the scuba deck that night, and I noticed it was so cloudy and dark. And it was really windy, like you could feel the wind blowing, and it was, the waves were crashing against the side of the boat, and the boat was kind of rocking. And I thought, if you ask me, not the best night for a night dive. But, you know, I was eager, but then I came down and I overheard the instructors talking about the safety of the dive and questioning whether it was safe for us to dive that night. And they proceeded to say, okay, we were going to make that dive. But I couldn't get it out of my head that there was a question about the safety. And then everything seemed magnified. The clouds seemed to come in on me and the boat seemed to rock that much more. I was really uneasy about this dive. And as luck would have it, I was one of the first to go into the water. And as I was standing there about to go into the water, my heart was racing, and it was so loud, it felt like it was in my ears. And then, splash, I was in the water. Now I had to wait for 9 other people to get into the water, and those waves were crashing against me, and it was bringing me further and further away from the area where they were jumping in. And then the waves kept crashing against my face, and it was making hard for me to breathe. I even had to put on my regulator, which normally you don't put on until you go underneath the water. So I was using up precious air from my tank that I was going to need for later. And then my goggles got fogged, and I had to take those off and organize that. And I was getting further and further away from the group. I was thrashing my arms and legs, and nothing was working. So panic set in. Fight or flight. So with that, my thoughts came crashing in like the waves. I didn't train for this. This is dangerous. People die at sea. I could die. I could die. Remember earlier how I said those 95% of our thoughts, they keep repeating themselves? So as it was repeating itself in my head, that fear was getting greater. And then I had this out-of-body experience. You know, you ever experience yourself experiencing yourself? And I saw that this death trance was absolutely not helping me. And that realization is when the unconscious becomes conscious. I was now truly aware that I had a choice. I could be the victim and give in to my fear and give up my power, or I could be the victor and make this a great adventure. And so another part of me woke up, smacked me in the face, and said, "This is pathetic. This is not who you are. Pull it together. Take a deep breath." So I did. And I took a couple of deep breaths, and with that, I was able to calm down. And I was able to see that the turbulence above the water was from the wind and the elements outside, and that down below the water, it was calm. So with that, I made the decision to complete the dive. And interesting enough, as I made that decision, I got relatively quickly back to the group. How? It seemed like it was impossible before. It's because I was paralyzed by fear. Fear is like our kryptonite. Kryptonite renders Superman powerless when he's near it. And when I panicked in the water that night, I gave up my power. I gave into the fear. So by letting go of that fear, I let go of the resistance that kept me from getting back to the group. So I'm not saying that letting go of fear, anger, sadness, or any other such emotion will make it easy for you to do what you have to do, but it will make it easier. I believe that your experiences and your challenges, they don't have to define you. But if you allow them, they will refine you. You have a choice. And that choice always begins with awareness, making the unconscious conscious. And really then and only then do you truly have a choice of what this moment means and how you're going to interact with it. And what I'd like to share with you is 4 ways that I practice in order to create greater consciousness and greater control over the energy of my thoughts. So number 1 is self-talk. You heard me, I said I could die. Those words that I were using, right? That was really, as soon as I heard that negativity and those words, that was a trigger for me to break that pattern of thought. Our words matter. A great example of this is Tony Robbins did an interview with Nelson Mandela. And he said, "Mr. Mandela, how did you survive 27 years in prison?" And Nelson Mandela got pretty intense and he said, "Tony, I didn't survive, I prepared." Wow, right? Listen to the powerful use of words and the energy of those words. So what do you feel when you're feeling survival? You feel aggressive, you feel angry, you might feel hurt. It would lead to a very different experience than if you're preparing for something. What do you feel when you're preparing? You feel calm, controlled, purposeful. Very different result. So your words, they reflect your thoughts. So you want to really choose your words wisely and listen carefully. Number 2 is focus. What was I focused on that night while I was scuba diving? I was focused on the distance that was being created between me and the others. And I was focused on the fear and the waves crashing against me. What we focus on is what we think about. And if you focus on your fear over here and what you don't want, you're going to get more of what you don't want. But if you shift your focus, you shift your perspective, you change how you interact with it, and you change your results. Number 3 is physiology. When my heart rate was beating above 150 beats per minute, that's when our brain, we go into fight or flight mode. That's when we lose access to the executive function of our brain. And so by just breathing, I was able to slow down my heart rate and get back that access to my executive function. So you can do this too. You don't have to be in a life or death situation to just move your body, breathe, or to use your body positioning to shift your mindset. You can do this every day. You can do it at work if you're distracted, or school if you don't want to do your homework. You can do it in any context, maybe a conflict or you're not getting the result that you want. Your body is with you all the time. And lastly, when we combine that with a purpose that's greater than ourselves, now we have all the aspects of what I call energy management. And that means that's how we show up for the time that we have. And you have to practice it. So there's a great quote by the Navy SEALs, and it goes that in a crisis, you don't rise to the occasion. You sink, no pun intended, sink to the level of your training. But I would say you sink to the level of your thinking. So back to the Matrix. So in the movie, Neo, as he starts to believe that he's the one, and he's practicing using his power, he's gaining agility and speed. And so if you want to gain greater agility and speed in how you manage the energy of your thoughts, then you can manage your self-talk, direct your focus, use your body and your physiology, and connect to a purpose that's greater than yourself. And now you have the power to dodge those bullets, stop those bullets of unproductive thought that come from emotions like fear, anger, sadness, hurt, guilt, or shame. The fact is, you are Neo, You are the one. You have the power, and you always have.